welcome to this week's episode of Pit Against a Live Push-Up Call-In Show. I'm William, Table and Legs, and I'm joined by my constant co-host, Kevin Smurf Murphy. Kevin, what's up?
What's up?
Pit Against is a live call-in show. If you'd like to be on air talking to us about your take, join the Pit Against Discord by clicking on the link that's in the description. Then join the waiting room channel, put your hot take in the topics channel. If we like your take, we'll pull you on air. But, Kevin, ProQuests have started. How's your ProQuest season started? Real briefly.
I've played one.
Yeah.
I have 5 more.
Sure.
I top forward the first one. It was draft. Mm-hmm. We had a 10-person draft PQ, which means we had a 10-man draft pod.
Okay.
And we cut to top 8. And we draft again.
Is that right? Is that how that works?
Yeah.
How many rounds of Swiss
3
is there? 3? 3 for 10 people?
Yeah.
Okay.
So you do a draft.
Yeah.
And then it cuts to top 8.
Yeah.
Which means if you win one of your first 2 games, you're in top 8.
If you lose your first 2 games, you're going home.
You're probably out.
You're going home. You're going home, or you're getting a drink, or you're getting a burger. You're doing something other than hanging out. Or if you're hanging out, you're making the best of it. That's kind of a feel bad.
I mean, yeah, like any cut to top 8 is.
I want to say it was a ProQuest draft once where I distinctly remember being in a pod of 5, and I don't remember how we got to that point. Like how many people led to a pod of 5. But
if you have 11 people, it splits to 6 and 5.
You are 1 away from having 2 pods.
And absolutely miserable drafts.
Yes. Because one of us in the pod of 5 pulled Dread Scythe, which was so funny.
Oh, was this for like a skirmish?
Was it skirmish? It was.
That would have been a skirmish.
Was a skirmish? Still felt bad.
Yeah,
felt really bad. I think that person went 2-1, which was the funny part. No, we had to I think the rounds were intermingled, between the draft pods. Like we were playing people from
how that's supposed to work.
Other draft. I'm pretty sure.
That's not supposed to happen.
Yeah, that wasn't supposed to happen. Anyways, aside from that, you got 5 more. Okay, so you didn't bust out your CC hero here.
Nope.
We know you've been playing Enigma.
Yes.
So you're playing Enigma in the ProQuests leading up to this and more draft games.
So this PQ season's weird because we get the Dash.io Armory deck in the middle of it.
When do we get it? Do we get it before this weekend?
Friday?
Next Friday.
Yes.
Not this coming Friday, but the next one.
Not tomorrow.
Okay.
8 days.
Okay.
So
that's interesting.
we have 2 weeks of PQs without it and 2 weeks of PQs with it.
Okay.
Those are drastically different metas.
Are they? It's that good. Dash changes that much.
Yeah. Have you read Cerebellum Processor? They gave her Tome back.
It's pretty good. They
gave her Tome? That's Mechanologist.
Oh, she can banish it.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah, it doesn't brick your turns.
That's pretty good.
It's pretty damn good. And it's a blue.
I don't know. That's not much better than Codex of Frailty.
Can you play Codex of Frailty off the top of your deck?
It's an item.
Yeah.
I mean,
if you have to play it out of hand, it's good. It is 100% good because at worst you crank it, you draw a card, and you end your turn with it.
Yeah.
But you can play it off the top.
Yeah.
Which means you then crank it, you draw a card, and you keep going.
You draw another card. And
it's once per turn to activate it.
Oh, once per turn. Yes. That's true too.
Easy.
Don't get it. Easy there.
But it makes Dio much harder to fatigue. It means high octane is absolutely bonkers because you're just like, oh, I just have 1,000,000 action points now. Okay, thank you.
Between the two, this is a mild discussion on Twitter, and we'll have this brief discussion. We can develop into it more if you want to in a minute, but
yeah.
what's the problem? High octane or cerebellum
High
processor?
octane.
High octane's more of a problem?
Yeah.
That's my answer too. I'm glad to see we see eye to eye on that. So Dash gets better.
Yes. So there are distinctly different metas before and after the Armory deck, because your aggro decks are fairly reasonable right now. Aurora's a little stronger than the others, but she's not really pushed in the way that we think of an aggro deck to be pushed.
Yeah.
She's very fair for an aggro deck. Like we said at the time, Lexi is the most fair, best deck we've had. And it's just come down step by step ever since then.
Yeah.
Except for Zen, it hopped back up for a bit, and then it came back down.
It wasn't supposed
stuff
to.
Got banned.
Yeah.
And now aggro decks are super chill.
Yeah.
Aggro decks are very reasonable, and they rely on breakpoints and stuff way more than
and
raw
maybe
value.
even magical Christmas Lane sometimes, where Aurora could
a little
just
bit
win
of
a game.
stuff has to line up.
Yeah.
Aurora does her little combo with Flicker Wisp and Arc Lightning, where she cracks Iron Weave, cracks the gold, gets 4 damage, and draws a card.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
It's pretty good.
Yeah.
And it's the meta is relatively leveled out, and Zen is still hanging out and doing decent. He's not great, but he's doing all right.
He's there.
And Viserai's doing fine. Florian's doing fine. Aurora and Enigma are definitely the two front runners in this first meta.
Yeah.
But not to a wild degree. They both have pretty reasonable ways to target them. Enigma's a little bit harder to target. You have to pick your deck. You can't tailor a deck to beat Enigma. You have to pick a deck to beat Enigma.
Yeah. Which kind
Aurora
of
can
sucks,
do so reasonably,
opinion,
though.
Yeah. Sure.
Aurora can do so reasonably. Viserai is not terrible at it. Vincent isn't as good as people thought she would be at it. OG Dash is fine into Enigma. Not crazy good, but very reasonable in my opinion. Some people think it's a free matchup for Enigma. Some people think it's very good for Dash. I think it's probably somewhere in the middle and a little bit draw and banish dependent. Dio is probably the hardest deck in the game at the moment, and the Enigma matchup is why.
Mm-hmm.
Dio is still totally fine into all the other aggro decks. She didn't really get touched unless you were playing Tome. And honestly, I think if you got Tome taken out of your deck, that helped you. So, this meta is pretty wide because there's still brutes hanging out trying to do stuff.
Yeah.
It's pretty reasonably wide, but we saw the baseline of the first week of PQs of people trying to figure out this meta, and it turns out the best aggro deck does well, and the best defensive deck, the best skill check deck does well.
Yeah.
Which is Enigma.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
to go over the Percrest stats again. I mean, you said it, but to spell it out, Aurora got 23 wins, Enigma got 22. Names I don't see on here. Victor, sad. And
0, I believe.
0. Do you know who else got 0 that is notable? And we just mentioned
Vincent?
Dio got 0 so far.
Dio's hard. Dio is legitimately a hard deck.
She's crazy difficult. Yeah.
Yeah, but that Enigma matchup is the point that's going to skill check Dio players the most.
Okay.
Which also isn't going to matter nearly as much when you get Processor, because you're just going to blow some Enigmas out of the water with that card. It's going to be insane.
Yeah. Shut up. All right, go ahead.
So there's 1 week of PQs left where this meta is relevant, and then everything's going to kind of move a little bit.
That's kind of
move
exciting.
a decent bit.
I think that definitely favors the prepared, right? You think?
Going to, yeah. So if you're prepared and you're ready for Dio, then obviously you're in the best spot. Which it's looking a lot like a triangle kind of meta, where it's Dio, decks to beat Dio, and decks that are trying to beat those decks, which is not
interesting.
Great.
No,
people are very concerned about Dio. They're saying it's equivalent to Zen with bonds, full rainbow bonds.
I don't think it is. Could it be? Is it that bad? Is it that bad?
it's not as far away as I would like it to be because high octane.
Yeah.
Where just your boost cards like also say draw a card.
It's okay. We can just get our 3rd emergency ban in the last month.
I don't know. It's interesting because like not a lot of people are talking about playing Dio.
No.
Like Dio's going to have a much lower representation than Zen did.
I think, well, yeah, because, right, so, like, most people, when they're playing a TCG, especially when they're looking at a meta for the first time, but I think I heard this from, like a Spike, who played one TCG and was looking at another one to see if he could spike a reasonably soft event for money. And they're like, the first thing you do is you try to find a broken interaction that can't be interacted with. And then the second thing you do is you look at the most linear, most aggressive deck.
Yeah.
And
which
that's what a lot of people do, is they start with
quite...
No, I would argue she's not a linear aggro deck. She's an aggro deck that...
Yes. She's like the least linear. She's the least face up.
Yes.
Like quote unquote linear aggro deck, because like she's still doing... You still know what she's doing. She's still going to boost cards at you and play items off the top when she can.
Yeah.
But it's there's a much higher ask. There's a much taller ask on the pilot than there was for Zen.
Which is going to push away a lot of people who would just pick an aggro deck. I know a couple of people who are going to play KO every week of ProQuest season because that's a linear aggro deck. It's something they know, and they're going to ignore the meta and just play the same deck every week. And I feel like that's something a lot of people do regardless of their deck, especially the the less professional players or competitive players. They're going to just have their deck or have a deck that they think is good into the meta. Like maybe they got 3 or 4 decks and they pick one and they play it every week of ProQuest.
Yep. Probably. I think they might, like, people will switch their tech cards. They'll go from weakest link to Erase Face.
Yeah.
As their tech card of choice after Command and Conquer.
Yeah.
And that'll be the extent of most people's adaptation. And that's fine. Yeah. Like that's not an unreasonable like amount of change, because also your local PQ scene may not have any Dio players.
Yeah.
Or it may have some people pick up Dio who are not Dio players before.
Yes.
And it's not gonna look that good.
It's like when Zen was top meta and we were still having CC Armories fire.
Yes.
Because that was a little different in the sense that no one wanted to play Zen because they found him unfun or, you know, whatever.
They just didn't want to.
Or they just didn't want to play.
No, people just weren't interested in playing the deck. It was the same here where, like, we had nobody playing Zen here because nobody really wanted to play Zen. Like, that was just kind of it. But this is different. Mm-hmm. This is a different, like, reason that, like, you might have people pick up Dio because of the Armory deck, but they may not do super well because of how hard the deck is.
I feel like if you pick up Dio for the Armory deck, you will do bad.
You're going to struggle at first, for sure. You're going to have some turns where you look at your hand and you're like, I don't know what to do with this, and someone else can find 20 damage out of 4 cards.
Yeah. And also, it's really intimidating for newer players when you draw 3 items and your opponent presents, I don't know, 13, but you just freaking panic and block with your blue because it's the only thing that blocks. And then you're like, maybe, you know, in hindsight, you think about the game later and you're like, that's not what I should have done, but I did it. So, yeah, Dio's a hard deck. So,
but I think we go to Worlds. Mm-hmm. And we're going to see like 4 Dios in top 8, and it's going to be 4 of them who figured out how to never get fatigued.
Is that... Oh, that's a different question. I think... But like, I think I'm going to write that down.
I think we go to Worlds, and Dio should be a top 3 deck no matter what. She might not be because people may not pick her up because there's only 2 weeks between deck release and Worlds. But like, I wouldn't be surprised to see 4 Dios in top 8.
So that said, if you're a competitively focused player like yourself, even myself to an extent. I'm not doing testing every week, but I'm building a deck. I'm planning. I'm thinking I'm going to bring a sideboard plan. How much does the meta change week over week, this week into the next?
I think week 3 into week 4 is the biggest change.
Yeah.
Because that's when everyone has their armory deck for sure
Mm-hmm.
and has had a week to build up on it. I think week 3 you see all the tech cards change, and I think week 4 you see all the deck choices change.
Okay. This is so interesting. It's like a really like evolving metagame, but it's almost like a forcibly evolved metagame as opposed to something naturally evolving. It's like you can see it ahead of time start rolling. Yeah.
You're literally injecting 10 points of value over 2 turn cycles into one of your best aggro decks right now.
In the middle of ProQuest.
Yes.
You're
just watching the standards for aggro decks just jump.
Yeah.
In the middle of your season.
I forgot if we've talked about stuff like this before. Are you pro or against dumping stuff like this in the middle of a season? Because I'm pro. I mean, you have to dump it eventually at some point.
Yeah.
And you put it in the middle of a ProQuest. It's much better than like a month before Worlds or something, or not a month, but like a week or something. You know what I mean? Like
it's 2 weeks before Worlds.
You know what? It is 2 weeks before Worlds. Because
it's week 3 of ProQuests the day it drops.
Yeah.
Week 4 of ProQuests.
Yeah.
And the next weekend is Worlds. It is literally 2 weeks from Armory deck release to day 1 of Worlds.
Should it have come out after Worlds?
I don't know. I might have preferred that, but I think either way, you do it the Friday after Worlds or the Friday of the first week of PQs, where it's essentially coming out as the same time as Rosetta.
I could see if like schedules lined up, just logistics of product making line up, and you cannot get it to drop week 1 of ProQuest. Like it's just not going to work out.
I would prefer it.
You'd push it till after Worlds.
I think.
Yeah. Like if the soonest they could do it is after week 1 of ProQuest, hypothetically.
Sure. I think the issue is potentially one, you have Ira coming out Saturday of Worlds and is legal for the calling. Mm-hmm. We still have one more Armory deck this year.
It comes out. You can play Ira in the calling?
In the calling and not Worlds.
I get it.
It feels weird.
That's really weird. I'm not sure I hate it. Me, I don't.
Yeah.
I see myself as like a spectator in a lot of ways, or like a fan to Flesh and Blood. And so, and this will evolve into the next question I'm talking about as well. But I think I really like the way injecting decks into metas make the meta, or into seasons makes the meta evolve. I find that really interesting and fun to watch, and it keeps me invested and engaged in how everything's rolling, right? When you have Zen as the number 1 deck for a month or 2 in a row, you're just like, okay, well, there's Zen, and even if everything else below him shifts a lot, I'm not thinking about the meta super much. Like,
sure,
it's just how do you handle Zen?
I understand that, but like there's a difference between like I prefer a season to be consistent because it's just like you don't feel like you have to prepare twice for PQs.
I think also I can see both sides is my problem. Like sure. I can see the fan side very easily as a fan, where I'm like, it's super cool watching it evolve and develop in real time.
Yep.
But also I can understand fully, like, especially like, I can't think of an amazing like anecdote or example of it, but just like the idea of like, okay, this is this season. The season functions like this. We know it a couple of weeks ahead of time what it's supposed to look like. Like, let's say the Dash deck came out the Friday before week 1. We already know what's in the deck. So we already know how to prepare for it, and we may not have the cards in hand, but we can prepare for it. And then just the entire of ProQuest season is static. And then you say something like Ira comes out right before Worlds, like the week before Worlds, and then you know Worlds has Ira, and then that is the meta of Worlds. Where you have these like set metas throughout an entire event or season, and they can basically be defined like that, right? Too. I think it's much easier to like historically categorize seasons and look back on them because the meta was set the whole time, and any fluctuations in the meta would be based on players learning, adapting, evolving over the week or the month, or
which
whatever.
Like it depends on, I think it depends on timing a little bit. There was the PQ season where Lexi left in the middle of it, and we'd had that meta for 2 months already.
Yeah.
And I was fine. I didn't love that it changed in the middle of the no, that was the first season that was the last season they didn't do it, and Lexi was available for the entire season.
Yes. Whereas if she left halfway through it, you'd be like,
I would have been okay with it because we'd been prepping for that meta for a couple weeks.
Yeah.
But sense. We had Rosetta drop 3 weeks before this PQ season.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to prep for another meta. We had Rosetta meta for a month.
Yeah.
And now we have Dio Rosetta meta, which is a very different thing.
And then we're going to head into Ira Rosetta.
And then Ira
Dio
comes out and tries to do something to the Dio meta, but I don't think she does.
I think she affects the other tier 3 decks she's probably
in. She's the deck that says you must be this tall to be tier 2.
She's very Guardian in her ability and what she provides to a meta. Which I
sort of. She's a weird,
because she's like value and she's on hits and
but not in the same way that Guardian is.
Okay.
So if Oldham was the equivalent of control numbers, Ira is the baseline mid-range numbers.
Okay.
And Phi is the baseline aggro numbers.
All value, but different scales of value.
Yes.
Okay.
But in different lanes.
Yeah. Whereas you would also put maybe Dory in mid, right?
Hatchet Dory?
Yeah,
yes.
Hatchet Dory. Yeah. Okay. That's interesting.
Yeah. Ira is the mid-rangiest of mid-range, 100%.
Yeah.
She wants just 2 attacks every turn, and it's because she uses Flick Flack better than any hero.
Mm-hmm.
She doesn't scale super well beyond that second attack. Whereas Phi does scale well beyond that attack, and Oldham doesn't scale beyond the first attack.
True. No, actually, Ira does scale. You go Kodachi, Critical Strike.
Sure.
Sensor?
But that's a 2. It's a 2. Yes, Sensor's 100%.
Kodachi Sensor? Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's still the second attack. That's just
it's a 2 card.
Yeah.
It's you're basically not scaling beyond your second attack.
Which that's interesting because I think about how I've had to adjust my play pattern against Florian a little bit because it's been a minute since I've played a deck like it, where I don't feel like Florian does super well with big hands. There are some 4-5 card hands he can play out, but sometimes it's just a 2-card, a 3-card hand. I wonder if Ira will have the same pitfalls of that, where the opponent can be like, okay, Ira wants a 2-card hand. I'm going to tell them they have a 5-card hand and generate value they can't interact with. Or...
I'm going to make 8 rune chants and tell them to go away.
Yeah.
Tell them to hit me. Oh, they hit me for 8 again anyways. Go. I'll send 25 now.
Yes. Which actually, it'd be interesting. I wonder if... No, I was just thinking about how Azuri puts that 1 for 5 would go again in her deck, pick to pieces.
Looking for a scrap. I keep mixing those 2 names up.
Similar concept in names. The next question I had was related to Dio, which was, you mentioned there's a non-zero chance, it's actually a very reasonable chance, according to some people from preliminary studies of the meta, that We have 4 Dios in top 8.
I wouldn't be
Worlds.
surprised at all.
You wouldn't be surprised.
I would put my money on 3.
Okay. Let's say, it is the premier aggro deck of the format, and we get 4 in top 8. That's much more interesting than 4 insert almost any other aggro deck, right? Is it a fun deck to watch? I guess is the question I'm asking. For an aggro deck.
For an aggro deck, yes. It is more fun to watch because you don't know what's going to happen because items come off the top. I think it's going to have a little bit of what they didn't like. What they talked about when they banned tomes is like, oh, Prism double tomed. This game suddenly is no longer interesting. The game is over, even if it plays out for 4 more turns.
Yeah.
I think High Octane double processor is going to have a little bit of that feeling. And they're not going to like that.
And that's what they alluded to High Octane for in that post.
That is so High Octane is very much a Fab 1.0 card.
Yeah.
Because it cheats you action points like crazy. Mm-hmm. There wasn't a great use for those action points before. You could use Techlo Plasma Pistol and you do pretty well. Max uses it very well, obviously, but he also doesn't do a ton else that's above rate. His hero abilities actually cannot go above rate.
Yeah.
Innately.
Yes.
So he has to High Octane with Mech to like really go above rate, and he can. And processor is the best use we have for High Octane by probably an order of magnitude.
Yeah.
In terms of like deck effectiveness.
Yeah. It's really good.
Yes.
So I think that'll be interesting.
All your boost cards, instead of saying shoot your gun in extra time, say draw a card.
I think
on that turn.
I think the interesting thing. Well, you say it'll be one of them, right? Because it's just once per turn.
Per processor, yes. But
oh my gosh, yes! If you have multiple processors,
yes,
you can
This is where the nuttiness actually happens. You find an early processor, play it out, you play a spark, and you set a 5-card hand, and then you just have double processor, and you basically like if you draw High Octane in that, you just end the game.
They don't depreciate like other crankable items, right? Where it's like start a turn. They do.
So here's the thing.
Okay.
All the items with crank start with 1 counter. Processor starts with 2.
You just want a turn where you have 2 processors, not necessarily getting 2 cool turns with 1 processor.
Yep.
I need to be in a testing team just as like a conscientious observer. There
are people posting pictures in at least Mara's Discord. We haven't done a ton of work on the deck. I think Mara's played 4 games with the new cards, 3 of which were against me. Mm-hmm. I was trying to fatigue her as Enigma. I did so once, and I died by at least 20 health and like still 20 cards left in her deck twice.
Did you fatigue her the first time? Was it the first time you fatigued her? Because that's always interesting if it's like
the third.
The third. Oh, okay. That's interesting because I think the worst
because
case...
she made a mistake.
That's even worse actually.
She took a line where she said, I don't have enough items left in the top of my deck to get the action point for this. She had like, we went back and counted later and we were like, oh no, that was wrong. 100% supposed to take this line and I would have died.
That's the worst case scenario. Like the second worst case scenario is you fatigue her the first time and then she adjusts and then just wins the next 2.
No,
that also sucks.
The 4th game she played, she had 10 cards left in deck and had High Octane double processor, and she was like, there's a max V left in these 10 cards, I'm gonna find it and end the game. And she does. She just says, I'm gonna go find a max V that is in my deck.
What it's done for me is it's made me again appreciate Mara and actually the entire testing team and their ability to like navigate decks. I always find so interesting. I'm gonna read chat here for a second. Radio Captive said it has a lot of moving pieces. Dio does, which at least make it interesting. Which I love that, and I'm gonna be excited about that for Worlds. And I wonder if they left High Octane up just for entertainment value.
I don't think it's because of that. I think there's another reason, which will not work the way they want it to. But yeah,
Tim, Blade Store Champion Tim Scroggs says the baseline for processor is never ending a turn without an arsenal, and
Correct.
that is pretty strong.
Yes, in an aggro deck, that is very good. It says you always play 5-card hands.
Do you remember the last
difference?
Do you remember the last
Dio,
card?
the difference between,
Go ahead.
Sorry, the difference for Dio between a 4-card and a 5-card hand is actually insane.
I believe that, and it reminded me. Yeah, go ahead.
It's the difference between forcing a boom grenade through and not.
Yeah, and that's the thing about some of these, I'm going to call it synergistic aggro decks, where they compound in numbers, and dashes doesn't necessarily kind of like Phis, where it's like, you know, you get +1 on each of the things you do, but it's like, it compounds in the fact that it allows you to throw that on-hit effect of more damage more times. And you know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of the last card that basically lets you draw cards for free and give you, at the least, a arsenal, which was Plunder Run. Was the last card I remember that was like that, because it was like, oh no, I drew an extra card, guess I get another 5-card turn, and the extra card was another Plunder Run, so you start your next turn with that too.
it is Plunder Run that does not, like, its baseline is just, it cycles itself, and it stays on 1 counter when you crank it.
It's so good.
So this is the piece that, like, people are trying to do system reset shenanigans. Here's a piece, by the way. Don't play system reset. It's trash.
You're welcome.
Just stop. You don't need it. You
don't have to do anything fancy. You just have to do the thing.
The deck already kills people. You don't need system reset.
You don't need to increase the variance of your deck for more value, because you already have the value, right? So like
the difference between setting them to -2 and -20 is irrelevant.
It's like how bots in games work. Like, I'm thinking like chess or Go, where it's like they don't want to kill you by -20 points, make the big flashy play that flips the entire game on the head. They want to kill you by exactly 0.5 points, because that is more guaranteed. And so don't play system processor unless you're playing UPF, because you need to win by enough to win.
System reset.
What did I say?
You said system processor.
I'm getting them all mixed up.
Yes. No. So like
is Mara playing?
Will just turn it. It inherently can turn itself into 2 cards. It is 1 card that turns itself into 2 ponders.
So
which is actually, like, Mara talked to James White after Nats when she went 7-1, and everyone's like, with Dio? And she's like, yep. And James White was like, hey, can you send us your list? And also, what do you think the deck is missing?
Have they asked her to join dev team yet or not?
No, and I don't think she would.
She wouldn't. Honesty. There's no way she would.
No. She wants to play.
Is Tim Scroggs coming online, or is he just going to taunt me in the comics?
He's just going to chill in chat, probably.
Fair enough.
Mara had an idea for an item, which was once per turn instant, make a ponder token, blue 0 cost. I believe it was blue 0 cost. I don't think she told them this.
She might have.
It was a way to guarantee that you get 5-card hands, like, for 2 turns.
Is this better than once per turn instant ponder token?
Yes. Oh yeah.
I mean, it's action, but when you have high octane anyways.
Oh my god, it's so much better.
Plus, if you have 2 ponder tokens,
it's so much better. Plus, you have
worse.
the boots that are now battle worn 1 break to make an action point. Like,
now you got more boots. You got the boots. More kinds of boots.
The Dio deck will be very fun. Will be entertaining to watch, especially at least for the first day.
Yeah, unless you're sitting across the table from it.
Yes, it's another high roll that it's like I don't think I can do anything to this, because it's turn 2 they found double processor, that's it, and then like the mirror is going to be like, oh, turn 2 I had 2 processors, but they forced through a TikTok clock, so they blew up both my processors.
I think I think the thing about high roll decks that isn't brought up, and it's not necessarily like a big thing, so it doesn't get brought up, is that if you win against a high roll deck, it's less rewarding.
Yes.
Because the idea is that they're supposed to high roll. And I'm not saying that Dio is fully high roll, but like if you feel like you're getting high rolled every time you play against one, because it feels like they're doing magic off the top of their deck, and then you just happen to win one game, you don't feel that. You're just like, they got the wrong hands is what it feels like, not that you did anything special.
Yes. Yeah, because it's like, because no matter what in that game, you feel like it's not under your control.
Yes.
But you also feel like it's not under your opponent's control either. You can't feel like, oh, they're a better player, I lost to them.
Oh,
it's like if Yuki shows up, I'm not gonna feel bad that I lost to Yuki.
Well, no one feels
but
bad.
Like at the same time, if she's playing Dio, I'm just gonna be like, didn't any average Dio player could have had that hand? I didn't lose necessarily because it was Yuki.
Do you feel like that's the case if you're playing Dio? Does it feel like you've done this successful jaunt, or this you've completed
a little bit? Like I solved the puzzle.
Yeah, you solved the puzzle. Do you get that feeling?
Yes, until you have the games where it's like if you just have 2 games where there's no items on top of your deck the entire time.
So it feels good if you don't high roll them, and you just have to like find. If
you
a way
have
to
like
win.
an average roll,
yeah,
it's fine. It's a challenge still, because you have to like Dio. Like we've said, Dio's not an easy deck. So if you don't like Omega high roll, it's fine. But like if I'm gonna go like just double processor, like turn 0, 1's off the top, 1's in hand, and I Arsenal high octane, I'm just gonna be like, I didn't do anything for this. I just put the cards and I shuffled and you cut to the wrong place.
Holy frick.
Like some of those games,
I think people
are like,
else. Yeah, go ahead.
Like some Dio games do genuinely feel like uninteractive, because it's like, oh, I started with Boom Grenade off the top and Core from hand, and I arsenaled like a 1 for 4 boost, and I drew like triple boost, and like the Boom Grenade's gonna hit, Core's gonna go. I don't even need to pitch a card for this turn. I'm gonna present 24 on turn 1 without doing anything. Like
I think one thing that I found was really interesting in my time playing Dio in the previous era, where you have a Boom Grenade on field, and you have a Sink Below an Arsenal, and you have a Sink Below an Arsenal. They have a Boom Grenade, and then they play something that's a 1 for 5, and you go, and you've never felt 5 feel like a break point 4. Like that before. Oh,
you don't think of 5 as break points, but
it can be.
We'd run so many zipper hits if we could. If we could run 9 red zipper hits.
Yeah.
Windmill slam.
Yeah.
Done.
5 feels
easy.
Strong. Okay, so I'm gonna wrap that up and do a really quick point as I tell people who are watching that if you want to join us live on air and give your take, not necessarily about Dio because we just spent 30 minutes on it, but if you have a hot take about Flesh and Blood or the meta right now, you can join our Discord by visiting the link in the description, and you can chat with us about your strong opinions. The next strong opinion was one that you said you were seeing on the internet that I didn't see, so maybe that means I'm blocking all the right people. How does ELO feel right now? We've been in the ELO system for a while now. How does it feel?
I mean, this is just like the standard thing that happens. Like we just came off Amsterdam, and a couple callings happened. Like we had Lyon and we had Tampa, which was a calling. And it's just the standard fare of nobody. You see a bunch of people be like, oh yeah, I went X2 at my PQ and I went -3 ELO for going like 6-2.
Yeah.
To lose like the finals or something.
Yeah.
And it's like, they're just like talking about how it's like, this is just, why am I going 6-2 and losing ELO? And it's like, because that's how ELO works.
Yeah.
You are 300 points higher than the people you're playing against. Your rating says you should beat these people 95% of the time, which I'm going to caveat this at the end.
Okay.
Nobody who I see complaining about this complained when they get 200 ELO at the PT because they just because of the PT multiplier.
Yeah.
Nobody cared. Nobody says shit.
Yeah.
And then we have people complaining that they lose ELO because of like the high ELO problems or whatever bullshit they're calling it. Like, no. If you're going to complain about the entire system, not just when it drops your numbers. Thank you, Tim. Also, just don't lose your ELO.
No, yeah, that's a good point. Right, so the reason you lose ELO in a tournament setting where, like, over the course of an event, if the reason you lose ELO over the course of an event is because you lost to more people that you shouldn't have lost to, then you should have
According to your ELO.
According to your ELO.
If you are deserving of that ELO, why did you fucking lose?
Yes. You shouldn't have lost. Actually, if that happens, the only person you can be upset at is yourself, because technically, according to ELO, you played against worse players and you should have beaten them.
Yes.
Yes. That's
it.
Which I have two really quick beefs, and then I'll let you wrap the whole thing up.
Sure.
One, you right there, I'm pointing at myself on the screen because the monitor over there. You are at 1481.43 ELO. What the frick? Average is 15.
Yes.
I have to perform at the ProQuest for my ELO. So I will not be asking anyone for a concession, but in my mind, I'm going to be thinking.
No. Stop. Don't.
Screw up. Draw a bad hand.
No.
Draw a bad hand.
No, I'm going to stop you right there.
Fair enough.
Don't give a shit about your ELO. That's not matter.
The correct answer.
Because here's what I'm also going to say. Okay. Those other people shouldn't give a shit about their ELO either.
Ooh. Yeah, but how am I supposed to be on the team with Brody Spurlock at Worlds?
He's the one with the top ELO. The other two are the finalists from Nats.
Oh, he's the ELO one. How am I supposed to be on a team with is it Evan? How am I supposed to be on a team with Evan if my ELO is true? And I think everyone on the internet needs to not worry about it either. ELO is
so okay. I'm gonna put that part this way. Setting that, if I don't think you're actually doing this, making your national team as your goal for almost everyone in the world is an unreasonable goal.
Oh, it's so unreasonable. That's more like
so unhealthy.
It's the thing about ELO that isn't properly expressed in my opinion is that it denotes like four things, like 3 or 4 things.
Yes.
Like it denotes like it actually does the math for figuring out which player they need for like literally 3 or 4 things, and everyone else's ELO kind of doesn't matter.
Yes.
You need to be number 1 or number 2, or even maybe top 15.
Top 75 is qualification for PT level events. If you're not in top 75, shut up.
And also, yes, absolutely. If you're complaining about ELO and you're top 75, shut the frick up. But 2, if you're in top 75 of ELO, it's probably not because you were thinking about ELO. It's because you were playing good Flesh and Blood and you just naturally get there.
You were playing good Flesh and Blood and you went to an event and you did well.
Yes.
That was it. That's what you did.
Yeah.
You didn't give a shit about ELO.
No.
You weren't there to get ELO.
Yeah, you get better and then you just get
there
ELO
to play
on
that
accident.
Event.
Yeah.
Play that event.
Set loftier goals. Like I don't know. I think one thing, this is the other point I was going to make. I think one thing that would help people is in chess.com, I think. I don't remember which chess website. When you play a person, it shows you before the game, your ELO, their ELO, how much ELO you gain from winning, how much ELO you lose from losing. It puts everything up front, and it's like, we've run the numbers. You can see your opponent's ELO. You win this game. You are supposed to win this game. That's why it says negative 40 if you lose, plus 2 if you win. You're supposed to win this game. And then and I don't know if that's pressure to some people. I get it. Just don't look at it. But like the idea is just like, if you need the computer to spell it out for you, I think that might be kind of nice if that was a thing. I could also see some weird gatekeepy gamer bros being like, I'm playing against a 1300 ELO, like disrespecting people or something.
Just get it. Don't show it. It's not
it doesn't,
important. Because you're also getting randomly paired round 1.
shut up about ELO.
We don't need that shit.
Yeah.
What they need to do to the ELO system is they need to decrease the multipliers so that PTs are less swingy, Worlds is less swingy. And instead of going like K values of 8, 16, 32, 64, have it be like...
Wait, I have a question.
8, 6, at most like 8, 16, 24, 32.
Yeah. No, we've talked about that personally, and I would like to talk about that for a second. I need to get a higher ELO so I don't get paired into Bird every round one.
Not how that works.
Does Bird have an ELO that's low? And 2,
Yes.
Does he?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that. And then
He was like sub 1300 at
No.
one point. And but he would then go to like, he went to like Calling Baltimore.
yeah.
And he was like taking full plus 32s off multiple people because he would win games there.
That's so funny. That's so funny. The other point I was going to make is how do they pair round one? Isn't that full random? That's
Random.
not based on ELO.
Yeah, it's full random.
Who's Radio Captive? Because that name sounds familiar.
know.
They're typing in chat, and they know who Bird is. I think I know who they
Yeah.
are, but I don't remember their name immediately. Anyways, the multipliers. The multipliers currently are for tiered events. What were they again? You said it, and I was not listening.
8, 16, 32, 64. So your PQs and your RTNs are 8.
Okay.
Your Battle Hardens and I don't know if your PQ plus is, but your Battle Hardens are 16s. Your Callings are 32s, and I believe Nationals as well fits in there.
Oh, it's Jordan. Yo,
what's up,
Jordan. Jordan.
And then PT and Worlds is 64.
Okay. Seems high.
Yes. I mean, this is like, I think they're doing it to like not stratify, but like distribute the system very quickly. And then probably pare down the values.
Yeah, pare down and allow it to...
But what this means is that like your top 25 are the 3 top 8s from the top 8s from the last 3 PT level events. Pretty much.
I mean,
Like,
yeah,
that's
so
kind of it.
you win a tier 1 event, and then you just skyrocket in ELO. It doesn't matter who you're playing.
Yeah. Like, it's not because you went to like 6 PQs and you went X1 at each of the PQs. Like, these people could go X1 at all of their PQs and go even on ELO.
There could be an interesting strategy where you like, this is for all you ELO degenerates out there, where you like go to all the PTs and Worlds, and if you drop, do you lose ELO?
No, it's only for games played against people.
So what if you just win every game of day 1 and then drop before you run into the good players, and then...
You have already run into the good players by then, my guy.
I guess that's true. Those are invite events.
You're in the 4-0 bracket. You're against good players. There's no avoiding that.
Everything should be the same K value, just like in chess. That's my opinion.
I would be okay with that. Because that's really interesting, because like you have people who go to 8 PQs, and they're like at the top of your ELO ladder. Even if they don't, you could go to 8 PQs, get second at every single one of them, and maybe qualify off of your ELO because you crushed the entire season in reality. You just lost one game each time, and it was the one that said you don't get an invite. But
What's
like,
the cutoff again?
top 75.
In your
But
region?
like, no, in the
Or
world.
in the world?
Yes.
Is
like,
top 75 not more contested than I thought it would be? Like,
It is.
okay.
Why?
I don't know. I guess the idea in my head of getting top 2 and 5 or 8, whatever your example was, didn't sound like enough to get 75.
8 PQs?
8
So-
PQs.
It would be if we hadn't started with these K multipliers.
Okay. All right. I got it.
Because
following.
now you have to catch up.
Yeah.
And you can't do that as effectively because everyone leaped out ahead.
I think it'd also be interesting, like, in years. Like, let's say we do what Tim says, and everything has the same K value. And in a few years, then it's like ELO... even then, I don't want to say ELO matters because, like, you could just play in small events and lose some. Like, you could be Brody, play in some small events, lose a few small events because you're testing a deck, and then lose ELO.
Yeah.
It's not going to be. There's not going to be like a Magnus Carlsen scenario where like he'll draw games. Well, I guess there's not draw in the same way chess is either, but he'll like. He only wins or draws games in chess mostly. Like if he loses a game, it makes headlines. Yes. And so his ELO only goes up.
Draws for him usually lose him a point or like half a point of ELO.
Yeah.
Because draws are also dependent. Like the draw value is not 0.
Yeah.
That's also dependent on it's like, should you be drawing against this person?
Okay, fair enough. Because I have heard that he like doesn't. He basically doesn't lose. At one point, he was not taking games against certain rated players because he didn't want some external factor to like he draws a game and then loses 40 ELO or something.
I don't know.
But
I know that he went like 3 years without losing a game.
Yeah, that was.
He only won or lost
dope.
For like 3 years.
That was so dope.
Or won or drew for 3 years.
Okay, so.
But yeah, no, people need to shut up about the ELO system. I don't give a shit if you went X2 and you went -2 ELO
just win your games.
-6 ELO. It doesn't. No. Stop complaining unless you're also going to complain about the system when you go +200 at a PT.
If you want better ELO, win your games. If you want to win your games, get better at Flesh and Blood. So your goal should be get better at Flesh and Blood.
Yeah.
Simple. ELO will come naturally.
All those things also compound where it's like, oh, you play better at Flesh and Blood, so you do better at a PT. That means you not only have ELO to put you in top 75, you also got a PTI. You also got money to travel to another event where you can convert that into another PTI because you qualified off ELO.
Gravy train.
Like, essentially.
Yeah. All right. I had written down, and you can tell me to delete it. I had written down under hot takes, Pro Tour London's PTIs. I don't know what I meant by that.
Yes. So,
unless you know what I wrote that down
in top 32 for Amsterdam, and I believe for Worlds. Remember. Yeah. So
go ahead.
You get a PTI as part of your prizing.
Yes.
They've released the prizing for London, and they've changed this to an invite exclusively to PT APAC. I don't like this.
So it's not a PTI.
It is not a PTI. It is an invite in the same way that winning a PQ gets you an invite.
PTIs need their name changed because that's not what they are. Or Pro Tour invites need to be called something other than Pro Tour invites. You can't have two different things that are both be abbreviated PTI, but
sure, but like this is specifically an invite to PT APAC, which is the second PT of the year.
Generalized PTI term is an invite, use it wherever you want.
It is a professional tournament invitation. Mm-hmm. It is an invitation to any professional level event.
Okay.
Any invite only event.
But you don't like this change because
the game is too small. People who are going to London cannot necessarily go to PT APAC. True.
Actually, I wonder even how many, like what the crossover would be, like how many could. It'd be very small.
I want to see from this top 32 that we're going to get in London in April, how many people are going to use that invite.
I'm going to reach out to all of them on Twitter. We're going to get down to the bottom.
I want that data. That's a really interesting question because it's like, are we just burning these invites and like moving closer to Magic with PT qualifying to do the next event? Yeah.
Damn it, I was getting to that. I was going to let the man finish first, and then I was going to be like, well, what do you think about a system where the invite always goes to the next event?
I don't think we're a big enough game for that because people can't make this game their livelihood. Mm-hmm. Where they can always travel to every PT that they qualify for.
And even those that can
don't necessarily want to,
but like a thing that I don't like yet is it feels like the only people that can right now, and it is the money reason, it's people who are very well off. They have the time or the money or both, actually both really, to go to these big events. And it's not technically gatekeepy. But it is a little bit financially gatekeepy.
But we don't need to do this.
Yeah.
The issue, like, I understand if they want to do this in 10 years when we have PTs that are 1,000 players already because we have enough PQs for them. Like, when our callings are 2,000 players and we have just more PTIs available and stuff like that. We have 2 Battle Hardens every weekend. Like, I'm down if we do that some point further down the line. I don't think we're a big enough game yet. And I want people who go to London and do well, who are from the US, and can't afford to go to APAC again right after you have Worlds in Osaka.
Yeah, like,
if we're gonna put Worlds in North America next year, like some people believe we're gonna, I want people who can't go to PT APAC but get the qualification from London to be able to use that for Worlds.
So it's interesting because like the big boon for people to have a banking PTI would be like, even to the extent of, I did really well at this event, I can't immediately afford to go to the next one, but I could go to the next one.
Yes.
And so if I could bank it just a little bit longer, I could afford to keep going on this train.
But it's also what Tim just said. Mm-hmm. Being able to save that invite for Worlds, even if you can go to PT APAC, what do you do during the PQ season for that second PT?
Nothing.
You're locked.
Actually, you take heads is what you do. You win events and you take heads.
Yeah, you're just going for gold foils because you're already qualified.
Yeah.
Which means you're less incentivized to, you're slightly less incentivized to play. You're less motivated to play.
You know, I could hear somebody say something like, I definitely feel like
invites are more distributed.
No, I think the thing that I definitely feel like I could have or have heard someone say before is like, well, this gives me more time to prep for the event. I don't have to think about PQ season, or I don't have to participate in it.
How far is this PQ season from London?
I don't actually know.
A full set and at least 2 armory decks.
That's a long time.
Sure fucking is.
That's a long time.
You know what's going to happen between if Worlds was invites to London only as their PTIs? Mm-hmm. You have at least an armory deck, probably 2, and a full set between Worlds and then. You're not prepping for London instead of playing PQs.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're right. I could hear someone say that without thinking it through. Like somebody who was on a call-in show and was just like, I have an idea. I'll say it out loud as a conversation point. No, but
they're 2 separate.
No, yeah.
They're 2 separate. We qualified for for Amsterdam in heavy hitters meta. Mm-hmm. Like fully heavy hitters meta. I qualified for Amsterdam when Dromai was legal.
Man, that was a while ago, wasn't it?
Sure fucking was.
Yeah, it was. Okay, so
So, in summation, I don't like this change yet.
Okay. One, I got 2 things to say really quick. They're both very important. One, I thought it was really interesting the point you made, which was, we have X amount of sets and armory decks before the next one because armory decks affect the meta in a large way, and I think that's really interesting. Also, Acilio has an armory deck. Got announced an hour ago. That's gonna be hype. It's on their Twitter.
It is not on their...
Harness the unlimited thunderous possibilities of the latest armory kit.
Is this the armory kit?
Never mind.
The prizes for playing at your armory?
I read armory and just jumped full to conclusions. All right, so back on topic. Yes, I do think it's interesting that armory decks are a large part of the meta now, which I don't know how I feel about that yet. William, come back to William in a couple of weeks after he's thought about that more, because I might not like that. Also, this whole opinion on the Pro Tour invite. Yeah, my bad. The whole thing about this Pro Tour invite, I feel like would be a great question for tomorrow's interview with Jimmy Blanco, if nobody has mentioned it in the
in
comments.
like 2 days. Yeah.
Is it in 2 days? Yeah, I guess. No, their Fridays are.
No. They're
when
doing
is
it
it?
on the 13th. It's on the 13th their time, and it's on the 12th our time.
Fair enough. Yep, you're right. Okay. All right. So a little brief aside, I would have lost my mind. Yeah, I know. I saw the word armory and then my eyes turned red and I couldn't read it anymore.
No, I just need to go get my cold foil comet storms
True.
and EA flittering charges because those look great.
Wait, I want to see those. That probably does look awesome.
They look pretty good. I like what they're doing with the EA treatments.
I love how they like scrunch it. Yeah, they did it again, where they like scrunch the text down, especially in cards that have
it's the
shorter
offhand text.
Yeah. Like Rampart or Stalagmite, whatever it was. Stalagmite. All right. Yeah, PTIs are crazy. I think I understand and like the idea of a bigger, more developed, I'm going to call it sport, where you can have players go on this,
circuit.
go on a circuit, right? And that sounds great. And Flesh and Blood is, that's clearly what Flesh and Blood has been gunning for since day one. Like they've been very upfront about how they want a pro circuit. And there's a lot of steps to get there. And one of the steps is probably competitive player base and prize pool, which I don't know if either of them are big enough yet.
They would need to be stepped up a little bit or a decent bit, which I'm curious to see like what announcements they make in Osaka, of course. Like
next year's prize pool is 3 million or something like that.
I would guess it's going to be 2.
I'd believe that. I'd believe that.
I would guess it's going to be 2, and they're going to say we're going to have a battle hardened every weekend.
Did we not have one every weekend this year? How many did we have? Are we going to have 50 at least?
We're going to have like 40.
Really? I thought we were closer to 50 this year.
We're going to have 3 weeks without them because of PQs.
Oh, okay.
So like that's also like half the issue is like people don't like doing battle hardens in the middle of their qualifier seasons. But
is it a problem?
People don't like it because it's like, oh, there's 2 PQ. I just don't have a weekend where I get to go to PQs, which means stores are overlapping their events, and it means I have 2 less shots.
Do they not have PQs at Battle Hardens?
Not in the same way that you would have a PQ at your store, where you have a better chance of getting a invite to whatever event than trying to top 2 your Battle Harden.
Yeah.
But like, if there was a Battle Harden in every region during PQ season, fine, whatever. They don't need to put. I'd ask them not to put callings in the middle of PQ seasons or RTN seasons.
Yeah,
because those feel bad.
Yes.
Unless there's a way for you to qualify for your nationals because you top 64 your calling or something.
Your Sunday event is just a PQ at the event.
Yeah, you can choose between, or your Friday at the calling is an RTN.
Huh. I like that.
Your
Friday,
because callings are traditionally Saturday, Sunday events, and Sunday also is a battle harden for the people who didn't make day 2.
Yeah.
And instead of your Super Armory that we already run Fridays, just put an RTN if you're going to do that.
That sounds
fine.
Great. That sounds awesome.
Make that one like if you top 8, you get your invite.
I'm trying to think of a logistical reason to not do that, and I can't think of one.
It's that people won't want to travel for another 3-day weekend event where they also have to take Friday off, because for callings, a lot of people will fly in Friday evening, won't play the Super Armory, play Saturday, Sunday, fly out late Sunday, and they don't have to take PTO.
Well, I think it's interesting for people who are not like hyper competitive because they wouldn't go to many 3-day events.
Sure.
Or if they do go to a 3-day event, they hang out Friday and then they play games Saturday, Sunday. Whereas in this case, you get to, if it's like me or Ridge or somebody, you just get to go Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Yeah, you can do all of it, and that sounds hype.
That's fine.
You get to. You get to go 03 at the RTN, and then you get to go 03 at the calling, and then you get to go 03 at the Battle Harden. You get the triple 03.
I'm personally okay with it. I'm gonna have the PTO and the means to play those events if I want to.
Yeah.
But I am not the entire player base by any means.
That's something I forget as well, because I make very little. I'm in the camp of making very little money, but I'm not in the camp of very little PTO. I actually have an exorbitant amount of PTO. So, yeah. Jordan says he's in. Dude, if I could hang out with Jordan, Rhett and gang Friday, Saturday, Sunday, they would get into trouble and I'd watch them. And it'd be great.
Bro, I think in the middle of my first calling, we went and got beers. Like they did a lunch break after round 2 because they were setting up between draft and CC for US Nats that was running at the same time, and we went and got food, and at the way back we stopped at a beer garden.
And at that point you drank them under the table. All right, there we go. Got it. It's 9 o'clock. You want to wrap this up, or you want to keep talking?
I'm good with that.
Yeah.
We're gonna save. We didn't get to LLing weapons this week.
It's because
we'll get to that
because
next week.
LSS are never getting around to LLing weapons.
I think that's our job. They've made that our job.
that it feels so weird. All right, yeah,
Next
but that's
week.
for another time.
Yeah, we'll get Charmer on, and we'll talk about.
We'll get Charmer on. I appreciate the chat. The chat's been lively. We haven't had any guests on today, but the chat has been basically our third party for today. I was trying to get Mara on. I asked her earlier this week, but she ended up being busy on Thursday, which would have been neat to have her on.
Given DC,
I would have been excited about that, but you can't always get what you want. So
she finally got her win.
She got her battle earned win. We're so proud of her.
Yeah.
Now you got to get yours.
I need to get my top 8, bro.
Get your top 8, then you get your battle earned.
Yeah. I need something else first.
I need you to get a post-event interview where you name drop your call-in show.
Yeah, we're gonna have to do a deck tech, and we'll post it on the channel.
Yeah.
And
actually, we're gonna do a deck tech in the same way. It's gonna be more like one of those like vlog style videos.
The Yu-Gi-Oh ones.
What's the Pokemon one you sent me where he went to like a pro Pokemon event, not the TCG, actual Pokemon.
Oh, Wolfie.
Yeah, we'll have you do one of those videos. The hour-long deck tech into
and tournament report.
But it's a properly edited video. Well, I think that about wraps it up. Kevin, what shout-outs do you have?
I guess the merch store and the Patreon are it. Go to your PQs though. Go play your PQs.
Go play your PQs. Have fun at PQs. Events. Yeah, they're fun. They're good. I'm going to 1. I think. I don't think I'm going to SCG. I wanted to go to 2, but I don't think
You're not going to go draft.
Nope. Actually, what I was going to do was my store got a hold of Mystery Booster Box 2 for Magic, and I love Mystery Booster Box, and I was going to draft that, and I can't even do that. So,
damn.
I get to do the CC one, which I think though the draft is very exciting for me, I think this CC meta is very interesting, and so I'm excited to do this CC for that reason. Maybe more excited than... Yeah, I'll see you Sunday. Yeah, you're going to see both of us Sunday. Let's go. Shout out to Blade Gaming. Thank y'all so much for watching. If you want to buy shirts like the one I'm not wearing, you should go to our merch website, which I'll have linked in the video version of this. We also have webcam. No, we don't. I've not been doing webcam UPF because I have been swamped with stuff. Though we do have a game show coming up this weekend with Kevin in it, and it turned out really silly. I really enjoyed it.
Okay.
I will say I waited. In hindsight, I waited the finals the final round pretty poorly because it was just like whoever won the final round just won the whole thing. I wanted it to be like a catch-up mechanic, like if you were behind you could still have a chance to win, but it ended up just being whoever got that correct won the whole thing. Spoilers, but it was still really interesting. I think the whole game show was fun. All right, thank you so much for watching. Bye.